scope that I use for long range rifle shooting. And the first thing to note, just zoom in here, just come up a bit, is the turrets. They're external, tactical if you like, and the graduations on this particular model are in minutes of angle and quarter of a minutes of angle, both for elevation here and windage here. Some of the newer scopes are graduated in tenths of a mil, and that's really a personal choice. I've got quite used to using minutes of angle, and a lot of the software that you use to determine your elevation settings and windage settings, being American, gives you your settings in MOA, so that makes it slightly easier. Now this is a 10x42 scope. There's some debate on the actual magnification factor that you need for a long range shooting. 10 is probably the minimum. I'm quite used to it, I quite like it. It doesn't cause me many problems, but at 1200 yards, if you're having your target marked with the orange marker, it's very difficult to see with a 10 power scope. However, if you increase the enlargement, say to, I don't know, 26, 36, 46 I've heard of, all you can see through your scope is actually the target. High powered scopes also exaggerate mirage, tremble, heartbeat, all that kind of thing, so it's a bit of a double-edged sword. A lot of people like the high powered scopes, which are more for bench rest shooting and F-class, but I prefer the 10 power because it covers most of the ranges that I want to shoot out to. That is 100 yards to 1200 yards. The other thing I actually should point out here, if you're going to buy yourself a decent tactical scope, there's a couple of things to check. One is how many minutes of angle does the elevation control go up to. This is very important because when you're shooting at long range you need a lot of elevation. Somewhere in the region of let me think, 51 minutes at 1200 yards, something like that. 34, 35 at 1000 yards. So you do need a lot of adjustment. And it's worth checking the specification of the scope you're going to get to ensure that it covers this kind of elevation, particularly for the 308. If you're shooting flatter shooting cartridges like maybe the 300 Win Mag, you may need less, but I don't actually know that, so don't take that as gospel. What I've done on my scope is added a Picatinny rail here. This is a Nightforce Picatinny rail, and it comes with 20 minutes of angle built in. Very useful because that's 1 1/4 turns of elevation on this particular scope. The rings are also Nightforce, as you can see here, and the reason I got those is because I had some other rings. I can't remember the manufacturer, but they gradually worked loose over a period of time, caused me no end of problems that I didn't actually spot that they were loose, until finally I was shooting well over the target at 1000 yards and I realised the rear mount had come off. So that's a point to note. So I would recommend that if you're going to seriously get into long range shooting, one, you buy yourself a tactical scope. Number two, you make sure you've got the magnification that you require, which is probably, well, I don't know, 10 to probably 25 power, probably be enough. I've got a sunshade on here. That's academic really, but it does look nice. Butler Creek caps, Picatinny rail with 20 MOA built in. Finally, let's just discuss reticules. We discussed hunting reticules, and I came to the conclusion, you may probably do too, that duplex reticules aren't suitable for long range shooting. The mil dot reticule, however, gives you a number of benefits. The first one, of course, is that you can aim off or you can aim over or under by an exact amount, and you should, if you're going to get seriously into this, learn the differences between minutes of angle and mils. They're both an angular measurement and they don't refer to distance, so forget distance. If you can measure, say, your bullet splash from where you thought it should be in mils, you can convert that to minutes of angle and dial in a correction on your windage or your elevation. They're also very good for spotting for other people. If they've got the same reticule, you can call out their deflection and they can dial it in. It doesn't matter about distance. So 5 minutes of angle at 1,000 yards will be 5 minutes of angle at 100 yards. It's totally irrelevant. So as long as you can measure the difference, you can correct for it. So in my opinion, the only reticle to use at long range shooting is the mil dot. People may disagree with me, but it's well worth the effort to research, work out the calculations between mil dots and MOA. Here we have a typical mil dot reticule, and you'll notice from the thick post to the centre of the crosshairs in the horizontal and vertical directions, you've got 5 mils, nearly 17 minutes of angle, hold over or hold under. Very useful. This is my long range rifle. It's in .308 caliber and it's based on a Remington short action. As you can see, it's a bolt action, and that's a bit academic in the UK because that's the only action we can have. We can have straight pull, but most long range shooters, in fact all of them I know, are serious about this business, use bolt action. The barrel is a heavyweight stainless steel barrel. It's actually a Seiko barrel. It's the same barrel as the TRG. Muzzle brake, you can see there. I'm not going to discuss that because that isn't essential for long range rifle shooting. It does help, it reduces recoil and it also enables you to get back on target, but it's not essential. The barrel is fully free floated back to the action, doesn't touch the stock at all. The stock is a Macmillan A2, and that's again pretty basic. As you can see, there's not much addition to the stock except my favourite Parker Hale bipod. A lot of people don't use these because they do cant and you can tilt them forward, back. They're more a military style bipod than they are a target long range bipod, but I like them and I do tend to shoot, as far as I can, the same kind of kit that British and US snipers use. It's mounted on the front of the stock there. There's a spigot built into this particular stock, so that's okay. The action is pretty much Remington standard. However, I have changed the firing pin for a lightweight stainless steel pin, and I've also increased the power of the spring from 24 pound to 28 pound to get a better strike. It's supposed to reduce lock time. I don't know how you measure that. I mean, that's some sort of electronic gizmo that I don't know anyone who's got that kind of kit. The trigger is a Timney trigger. The Remington triggers aren't really adequate for this kind of job, particularly long range. If you jerk the trigger off, if it's heavy, then you'll probably pull off the target completely. So I've got a Timney trigger fitted here, and that is set to 3¼ pounds. It's quite light enough for me. Some of my colleagues have trigger pulls that are down to ounces. Well, that's fine if they get on with that, but I don't particularly need that. 3¼ pounds is enough for me. I've already discussed scopes, and all I'd say about that is do get yourself a rail with some elevation built in, typically 20 minutes of angle. Some people have got that and still run out of elevation at 1200 yards, and they're looking at 30 minutes of angle or 40 minutes of angle. That is well worth adding on before you even start. It just eliminates another problem where you've got to go back to the gunsmith, get the rail, do all that stuff. So there you go. Good luck with your long range shooting. I hope these videos help. Thanks for watching.